I want to make my contribution on this very important piece of legislation. I do so continuing from the last speaker, seeing the importance of looking at providing a way forward, providing some solutions, looking at policies and programs which the government can create to help to alleviate or to allay the fear of the people of this country and the members of this assembly that the government is in fact serious about putting in place policies to deal with the issue of crime. But I need to look back just very briefly, because during the course of the debate, we have been given quite a lot of information, a lot of data in respect of the crime situation, the stats, the seeming origin of the serious criminality in St. Kitts and Nevis, which takes us back to the early 90s. And we must not forget these issues. But what is important, Mr. Speaker, although we as a government have inherited what is clearly a bad situation, it is now clear that this government is making serious efforts to address the problem of crime, criminality, especially as it relates to the matter of illegal firearms, and the creation or the commission of crimes using firearms in this country. Mr. Speaker, this matter of crime and criminality and the use of illegal firearms is a serious business, serious matter. And one person has said that guns don't kill people. People kill people using guns. And it is that aspect of what we must do and what we have to invest in that is critical. We've heard a lot about the PEP program and the handouts which were given to young people to allay their involvement in criminality, but the statistics does not support that. And I want to suggest, Mr. Speaker, that if we are really serious about looking at where we've been and where we want to go, that we must not see the PEP as having been a panacea for the solution to criminality. It was not a panacea. And I want to put forward that it may have aggravated a bad situation. And I say, why, Mr. Speaker? You cannot, in an effort to change people, give them a handout every week which can be used to feed their bad habits. And I'll give you one example, something somebody raised with me yesterday. A person said he had a brother who was on, quote unquote, the PEP program, getting $300 and something a week. And that person was giving $100 to the quote unquote manager of the group every week, because the person was not going to work or showing up at 7 and leaving at 9 and getting a full day's pay. And that, Mr. Speaker, is a very serious indictment of that program. You have heard much from the member for number 5. You have heard from the member for number 9 in respect of the shortcomings, other shortcomings, and that is the lack of serious training which was taking place. And it's because there was a perception that it was free money, hush money if you want to call it that, or money supposedly to keep people from engaging in criminality, but it was being used in the converse manner. $100 out of $300. If it's free, I don't mind giving away $100 if I'm getting 3. I still have 2 free. $200, I still have that free. And so we now have to be very careful that we do not continue to tout it as having been a panacea or some way of being an anti-crime fighting activity. What it did, Mr. Speaker, because we had the same situation in Nevis. And we saw it as an abuse of the public funds, encouraging mendicancy, that is, people sitting down and just getting something for nothing. And this cannot and could not have been a properly thought of program. It is also clear to us that the change had to be made, and that change, Mr. Speaker, has to be a change which will address a change in attitude. A change in attitude. The Minister of Education, member for number 5, spoke of the efforts being made through education and the redesign of the curriculum, something we've talked about. The introduction of expanded programs in training and vocational, technical and vocational education for our people, to give them the skill required to participate in the economic activity in our country. And that, Mr. Speaker, is a critical aspect of the change which has come as a result of the Team Unity government's new policy in respect of how we deal with our young people, how we'll deal with people who are out of work, unemployed, some of whom have been unemployable. And we must not just brush aside the fact that people having worked in the sugar industry for many years and being made redundant, that they automatically would have adjusted to a new reality without being prepared. And that is what we are reaping now, as it were, the lack of planning, the lack of vision, the lack of foresight in dealing with the issues which affect our country. And we now, Mr. Speaker, have to take this forward. And the thrust must be, how do we engage our young people? How do we engage people at all levels? How do we engage them and redirect their thinking and their attitudes so that they now recognize that they have value, that they could make a contribution to the ongoing development of the country, and therefore steer themselves away from a life of criminality, from using illegal firearms, whether they are able to buy them or they're able to hire them or they're being used as hired agents to commit crime. It is an attitudinal problem which must be addressed. And we have to do so, Mr. Speaker, in a comprehensive manner. This bill is really to provide for it may not be a deterrent, but clearly if someone is caught with an illegal firearm and recognizing that he or she faces a 15-year or 20-year maximum incarceration in jail. Now, we are not saying that we are not dictating to the judiciary. We're not dictating to the magistracy. We're not dictating to the High Court. We're just saying, let us put that framework or that qualification that if you're caught with illegal firearm, this is what you are likely to face. And the fact that we've come to do that, and the fact that we're looking at other aspects of our developmental thrust and policy making and programs, must indicate to the people of this country and this House that the government is serious about fighting crime and bringing an end to violent crime, the use of firearms, and any other type of crime in this country. Because I want to put forward, Mr. Speaker, and it is nothing new. But we speak about some things, but I don't know that we actually say so because we actually mean it. Investment and expansion of the economy requires an environment which is safe and secure. We have to have that environment. If a business person is prepared to expand his business and invest money, which could suffer as a result of a downturn in the economy, which could be a result of criminal activity or people feeling unsafe or insecure. So we have to look at the totality of how we deal with this issue. And I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, that the plans which the government is putting in place, some of which are already in active demonstration to deal with this challenge which we face, we must find support across all hues of belief. All classes, all stakeholders must become part of this thrust to deal with the issue of dealing with providing solutions to the problems we have. Now, you heard some startling revelations from the Minister of Education. It is perhaps no different in Nevis. It is no different in Nevis that we have dropouts from the school system. And the fact that we are now looking at a new education policy, looking at revision of the curriculum, is because we recognize that there has been that failure or that failing in the way we have utilized the resources to get our people to respond to the needs in the country. And the issue of changing attitudes is not an easy one, Mr. Speaker. You cannot think that you've taught somebody to do something wrong over 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden, that person is going to turn around and begin to do the right thing. It is very, very easy, Mr. Speaker, for people to learn to do the wrong. And once it has been inculcated in them, it is hard to get it out of them. Mr. Speaker, we now have to recognize we have to do more. And what are some of the things which the government is doing? What are some of the policies? You heard from the member for number 5, and I made a note of that myself. We have met with the Police High Command, I'm telling you, almost every single month since we've been in government. And why? Because you recognize that the police are a critical part of the whole issue of fighting crime. We can have the demand, we want to put the policy in place, we can put the programs in place, but there is that reliance which must be placed on the police force and on the army. And someone was trying to make a point that we neglected the army in this whole matter of national security. That's not true. We have met with the commander of the Defense Force, Army, along with the Police High Command, and there has been that determination that there has to be ongoing cooperation and collaboration between the two arms of the national security forces.
And customs.
And also, and the mover is correct, and customs, because this has to be a total effort which will enable us to arrest or to seal any loopholes which exist. I heard one member on the opposite side spoke of the guns being imported to the legal ports of the country. Now, that report must have come from somebody if we are to accept it as being credible. Yes, we've had one case. We've had the high-powered rifle mentioned. We had a case in Nevis where a young man was caught clearing a gun from customs. He went to the court and he was found not guilty. Now, I say nothing more about the court. There could have been a technicality. Maybe in the preparation of the case could have led to that. But it is not that the government is not conscious of the need to take action. Some people have said that we need to shuffle up the people from the customs. I have, in my own way, given instructions to the Permanent Secretary of Finance to move the people around in customs at the port, at Long Point, the airport, and wherever else, but also to put equipment in which will add to the surveillance of the activity of the customs officers. Put an extra machine in so that if something, and every item imported must go through that machine. In addition, we have this 2 weeks ago made a decision that inside customs there will be CCTV cameras because you want to monitor every single officer and what he or she is doing in the office. And we have put in place also the monitoring of that activity. Mr. Speaker, I said when I listen to the comments from the opposite side, I don't know that they listen to what the government is saying, or they don't want to hear what the government is saying. Because what the government is saying and what the government is doing is really too much for them to comprehend and accept. That the government, 2-year-old government, with the pressure and the challenges which we inherited, can do so much to deal with the issue of crime. We look at the police and discussing with the police and the army. And one of the strategies and tactics which have been put in place is to keep an eye on and monitor the hotspots where we recognize, or where the police recognize, there are nests of criminal activity. Is it something new? It's not something new, but it is something which had not been done in the past. The police must have a presence ongoing in those areas. Now, it is not everything that the policy or the strategy dictates that will be known in detail, because you cannot tell the criminals what you're doing. Otherwise, they will do what they did when we got the RSS to come in. They will lie low, and unfortunately, they were encouraged to lie low.
Yes.
So that they would not do anything that they might be caught. Was it wrong to invite additional resources for which the government of St. Kitts and Nevis pays?
No.
It was right to do so. But we were castigated, we were criticized, because we were making an effort to deal with a bad situation in a short space of time. And that was one of the strategies which was put in place. And those strategies from the RSS have been translated to our own local police. And what the Minister of National Security and the Cabinet that we are saying is, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. Something works, let us repeat it ongoing. Let us do it over and over again. Let us be persistent, let us be consistent in what we do. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, the report that we have taken more than 20 guns off the streets is because of that persistence and that seriousness in dealing with those matters. Now, I talked of the matter of looking at hotspots. And I have here in my hand an extract from a Jamaican newspaper, the Jamaica Gleaner. And this is what it says. This is today's date, the 14th. And it says it is a statement from the Jamaica Commissioner of Police. It says, Kingston, Jamaica, Wednesday, 14th June 2017. With a record, and I quote, with a record number of 628 murders so far this year, referring to Jamaica, not to St. Kitts and Nevis, including 54 homicides in 1 week, Jamaica's top cop is deploying security officers to crime hotspots to arrest the recent spate of crime. That is what we have indicated to our police officers. Stay in the hotspots. Identify the leaders or those persons known to be criminals or known to have committed crimes and who may commit crimes again. Sit on them. They must not breathe. They must not sleep, because they are becoming and have become a menace to society. And they are giving the country a bad name. And the investors and the present hoteliers are saying that their people are finding it difficult. I have reports from one of our hotels in Nevis sent to their marketers warning about the high crime in Nevis and St. Kitts and Nevis. We have to begin to say to them that to do that is almost doing an injustice to themselves. Not just to the country and giving the country a bad name. Because in seeking to say to them, don't come, or when you come you have to be careful, and people begin to get worried and may shift to other locations, means that you are diminishing your own market. This is something that we have to be careful of, Mr. Speaker, when we speak about the issue of crime. That we do not in any way, because we may want to create a political advantage, so tarnish the name of the country without looking at how we can help to polish the name and make it more amenable for future economic growth. So here you have in Jamaica the hotspots. So when the police are seen patrolling the hotspots, it's not that we are trying to create any political image. It is because we recognize that it is one way of dampening, keeping under control any incident of criminal activity. One of the members on our side, I think, indicated that the police can't be everywhere at the same time. Otherwise, you'd have to hire one police for every household. That is impractical. But the fact that we have invested in support systems, in equipment, surveillance equipment, in transportation, in providing communication car, one mobile car to another mobile car for the police so that they can respond quickly if there is any claim of criminal activity. The government must be given credit for that. It must be given credit for it, because we are making that effort so that we can do what has been claimed. A member for Nevis number 11 spoke about that people will help to fight crime or give information for crime, criminal activity, when they feel safe. Now, but I want to take that a little further. If they don't give information when a crime is committed, then it gives and it perpetuates the fact that the criminal feels safe. And therefore, the fear continues on those who don't give the information. And that is not a riddle, that is a mathematical problem. Since you are afraid and you have information, if you don't give it, the fear will persist. That's what it is, and that's what we're asking our people to be part of join with the Team Unity government and the members of the assembly and leaders in community to fight this scourge of criminal activity. Somebody told me today, or he might have said in the house, I think it was in the house yesterday, it was said that when a crime is committed, members of government go and make speeches. So we're criticized when we say, we're criticized when we do, and when we don't do, we get a whipping. But we have to go past that, because this issue of fear is real. You heard from Minister of Education and Youth and Sports. Member for number 5, his own ordeal and trauma because of the discharge, the use, attack on his home and his vehicle by some criminal-minded person using an illegal firearm. But what we have to insist on is that our people cannot continue to use the excuse of being afraid not to come forward. The police have been engaging in community outreach, community policing, trying to get into the communities, to talk to those who are there. But I'll say this to you, Mr. Speaker. About 3 weeks ago, the Ministry of Community Affairs, or Department of Community Affairs in Nevis, after that spike of 2, 3, 4 murders in about 3 or so weeks, they initiated or carried on an initiative which the Minister of Social Development had started, going out to talk to the people on the block, talking to the guys who are at risk, trying to find out what they want to do, give them an opportunity to say, I would like to become involved in this training, I would want to do this little business, and tie them into funding for business so that they can become their own business owners and employ themselves. So they decided to have 2 meetings, one in Cotton Ground, which is a hot spot, one in the Rollins area, my own constituency, Hard Times, which clearly has become a hot spot. At that meeting, there are about 12 persons. Nobody from the community. No parent, no auntie, no uncle. Nobody came, no fathers came to hear what we were saying. But yet, when something happens, or the government not doing nothing, the police ain't doing nothing, but they're not coming to be part of the process of dealing with the issue of crime. So we have to try to embrace them. But one strange thing happened at that meeting in Hard Times was that one of our community leaders made a statement about the police and the police not being confidential when they get information. And then in a snide way said, I'm not saying telling the police anything because they don't keep things confidential. How in God's name can anyone be serious about fighting crime and parade around as wanting to be part of the fight against crime and said, I will not give the police any information, tell the police anything. And that is what is happening. And we need to break that cycle of silence. We need to change the attitude of our people in respect of how they see themselves and how they see their country. And we can do so through, one, beginning to tell and teach our children from kindergarten right through about the values and the attitudes which they need to adopt and adapt so that they can become citizens of the country, productive citizens, in order to help the government and those of us who are leaders in our country to deal with the issue of crime. And it's not just the gun crime, but we're debating that specifically because the matter is to provide an increase in the penalty for the use, the possession, and the use of illegal firearms. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the increase in the penalties which we hope will be passed in this House today will begin to sink into the minds of those who may want to consider using weapons or who have them, that they must recognize if you use and you're caught. And I remember for number 3 said, if they're caught. But we can't wait until they're caught to put the penalty. Right. The penalty must be there. So when they're caught, we don't have to be rushing and scrambling to put the penalty. Our effort here is to say to them, we will not be tolerating any possession, any importation, any use of illegal firearms. I want the message to go out that if you commit a gun crime, it will get you hard time. Now, will the court respond to that? That's not our purview. That's not our purview. And I heard the argument about judge and magistrate today. Those are not our purview. The court, the judiciary has its job to do. We have our job to do. We are the legislators. We know what we must do for our people.
Respond to the people.
We know what we have to do so that our people can feel that their government is doing something to protect them. And we cannot talk on two sides. It's either we are going to be part of doing something and supporting something which is being done to deal with those who want to commit crimes and those who commit crimes, or we will not be doing anything. What we are doing, if we do not support that issue, is in fact giving succor, however subliminally, to those who might commit crime. Because they may want to feel, well, they're not so sure, they're ambivalent, they're vacillating. We cannot vacillate on crime. I have said, and I've been criticized by people who perhaps don't understand, that if any family of mine commits a crime, unless they get into a passion and beat somebody, do not call me. If they go out and peddle drugs, if they go out and use a gun to commit a crime, whether it's robbery or whatever it is, do not speak to me. I have nothing to tell them. What am I going to tell them? I'm sworn to uphold the law.
Yes.
Here we are today,
Yes.
making the law.
Yes.
How could I then be seeking to give them solace and succor? Can't work. And we have to be very strong in how we deal with those of our people in our communities. Now, the other thing which we are doing, and it ties into doing more, we have CCTV. We're talking of education and programs. We have the entrepreneurship program, where we're encouraging young men, young women who have an idea, and who wants to become employed, and who can benefit from training which our small investment, a small enterprise unit does in Nevis, and what is happening here with the national, the NED, National Enterprise Development Division. What they're doing is offering that opportunity. Because people need opportunity. But our challenge is, how do we get those who need the rehabilitation and the opportunity, and who need to change their stance and their attitude to not to value life or to feel they can break somebody's property? How do we get them to do that when they don't want to come to access the training? And the thing about people being dismissed from the PEP program, that's not so. Some of them follow voluntarily because they did not want to follow the new rules.
They don't want to work. They want not to work.
They don't want to work. They want the money. So that dependency, which was being encouraged, is encouraging laziness. We don't like to talk about laziness, you know. Don't like to talk about it, but some of our people have become very lazy. They want the rewards, but they don't want to work. And that is one of the problems, and we have to discourage them from that. Right? In education, we're looking at the training to fit people for the jobs which the economy will throw up. Whatever those jobs are. Minister and others have spoken about the need for them to access the training and get the CVQ and the NVQ and the CARICOM or OECS skill certificate. We cannot fool ourselves that they must not have their certification, because we signed unto the freedom of movement and skilled workers. So people from Jamaica to Guyana, Suriname can come here and work if they have the qualification. So my preference and the preference of the government would be, without abrogating that agreement or that treaty, is to say to our people, you get the qualification, you get the certification. And if you get the certification, then the employer has a simple choice. He has a choice of one. You here already. And he can give you that job for which you're qualified and certificated. And this is something which we have to get our people to understand. And as minister with responsibility for labor, we are battling that day in, day out. We are battling that day in, day out. That, how they give a job to somebody from XYZ in CARICOM or OECS. That is because the government of St. Kitts and Nevis in 2000, after 2000, signed onto the treaty and have added over years additional categories of workers who could come once they have the certification. And we can't be part of it and yet want not to follow what the rules say. So we have to deal with this matter on a broad basis. In addition to that, the Department of Labor. So we are teaming up and collaborating and cooperating very strongly with the Ministry of Education, with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, with the St. Kitts and Nevis, or the unions or representatives of workers, so that we can find a way of getting a better harmony and also to create an environment in which those who want employment can see the Department of Labor, the Ministry of Labor, as a brokerage house. You go in, you state your name, your qualification. It comes back to qualification, whether we like it or not. Yes. What skill do you have? What evidence do you have that you have that skill? Ministry of Labor, Department of Labor will take that. They have their database. The same thing will apply to the employers. They know that they will be creating or have so many jobs available in whether it's refrigeration or sales clerk or managers or finance. And they will then also place that with the Department of Labor, who will then match the labor with the employment opportunity. And that's what we are trying to create that, so those who are out there on the streets and saying they can't find a job, they don't have to go searching for it. The Department of Labor can assist in that area. So we don't have any excuses, but it comes back to the bottom line that we cannot encourage bad habits and expect to get good behavior. Can't happen. Can't encourage people to go and feel they can get their wages for the day without putting in the day's work. We cannot encourage people to come without skills unless they're going to be on a job attachment, which the STEP program is seeking to do as well.
Yes.
Apprenticeship program where you can be attached to some business, and if you're good enough at the end of the training period, I think it's a 6 month training or attachment, then you can be kept on full time to become permanent employed in that place. So these are some of the efforts which we are making, and the Prime Minister over the bill is serious about this 500 acres.
Yes.
Because one thing we must do, and that is you have to eat. And if we can get some of these young people to say, listen, okay, I don't have, quote unquote, the academic qualification, but I have energy.
Yes.
I have a skill. I'm smart. I can grow things.
Yes.
And we can get them to engage in the production of food or flour, anything which has a value. It can make a big difference to the country. And this is what we are talking about. Same thing if there's an offer of a hospitality training. Tourism is our big industry. And they can take that training. They can be satisfied. They will never be out of a job. And we have to begin to change the attitudes of our people to make sure that they can take advantage of the opportunities here in St. Kitts and Nevis and get away from a life of crime.
Yes.
That is what we are offering. And this partnership with stakeholders is critical. Tomorrow, we'll be meeting with representatives of the Christian Council and the Evangelical Association. Why? Because we believe, and perhaps more than believe, the mission of the church is to inculcate in people values, good values. So we are working along with the representatives of the church. And maybe one of these days, we might have a full convocation of all the parsons in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm sure we will have 1,000 of them. Right? There's so many churches here and there. Meet with them and let them begin to see their role and mission to help to get our young people and our not so young people along a path where we have new values or renewed values, renewed attitudes, positive attitudes, so that we can steer them away from a life of crime. And then the matter of whether it's 20 years or 15 years or 50 years would be of no moment, because people would then be behaving well. Is it possible? It is possible. It's a small country, but if we don't put our heads together and we don't work positively, then we will not be helping ourselves to redress the situation. Mr. Speaker, I think, and I'll say this perhaps as my second to last point, I think that yesterday and today, the opposition missed an opportunity to show that they were willing, apart from saying it. Because they say, if one were to bring and say, listen, here is a program that I am recommending that could work to help the young people, it could have made a big difference. Could have taken out the rancor out of the debate. And Mr. Speaker, I know you tried your best to keep things under control. And today, when you had that suspension for 5 minutes, which was a little longer than 5 minutes, it took the tension out of the whole thing. I think it was a masterful stroke. You played cricket, Mr. Speaker? Because timing is more important than power. Timing is... But it is serious. We have to begin to be positive in our approach to solving the problems we have and the challenges which we have in our country. And I really, Mr. Speaker, believe that we have begun to see a little mellowing. And we need that. On a matter which is purely political, yes, let's deal with it politically. But this matter of crime and the matter of firearms, illegal firearms, has no color. It has no party affiliation. it only has one thing. If we don't deal with it and if we don't bring it under control, it will destroy. It has the potential to be destructive of our community. I want, Mr. Speaker, with those few words, or not so few words, to wish this bill safe passage to this honorable House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.